My name is Raina Brooks. I'm 33 years old, and I teach psychology at a community college in Richmond. I never thought I'd be telling a story like this, much less sharing it with the world. But sometimes the truth becomes too heavy to hold alone. Sometimes you speak because the silence feels like it's suffocating you. Before I begin, I need you, yes, you watching or listening, to stay with me. Don't go anywhere, because what I'm about to tell you isn't something anyone would believe unless they hear every piece of it. And I swear, once this story starts, you'll understand exactly why I had no choice but to run for my life. I used to believe I was one of the lucky ones. I married a man who checked every box. Andre, 36, IT consultant, calm, reliable, charming in that quiet way that makes you feel safe. He cooked dinner most nights, washed the dishes before I even asked, rubbed my shoulders when I came home tired from grading papers. He'd kiss my temple and call me sunshine, like I hung the entire sky for him. People always told me, "Girl, that man loves you," and I believed them. I believed him. Until the night I realized he had been lying to me for months. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to what life looked like before I knew the truth, before the curtain got pulled back. We'd been married for 2 years when Andre started working on a new contract. He said it was high-security stuff, government adjacent but not directly federal. It meant he worked from home more often, staying tucked away in the small room we called his office. At first, I didn't think anything of it. Lots of tech jobs have confidentiality rules. And besides, he'd always been private about work. But then little things started happening. Nothing huge. Nothing dramatic. Nothing I could point at and say, "That's wrong." Just strange. He'd pop up behind me unexpectedly, like he always knew exactly where I was in the house. Sometimes I'd wake up and he'd be sitting at the edge of the bed, watching me with this unreadable expression. He'd smile when I finally opened my eyes, acting normal. But something about it felt off. And then there were the questions. Oddly specific ones. "Did you sleep okay, baby? Any weird dreams? You been feeling dizzy lately? Anything you want to tell me about work?" He asked those questions the same way every night, like he was checking a list. I brushed it off. I loved him. I trusted him. People do strange things under stress, and God knows his new contract had him working long hours. But the first moment I truly felt something was wrong happened on a Wednesday night. Andre brought me a cup of peppermint tea, my favorite. He held it like he always did, with both hands, smiling sweetly. I almost didn't notice the faint shimmer around the rim of the mug. A powdery ring, barely visible, but visible enough. "Did you put honey in this?" I asked, sniffing it. He blinked harder than the question required. "Yeah," he said. "You always ask for honey." I didn't. I never use honey in tea. I forced a smile and thanked him. But I didn't drink it. I set it on my nightstand and pretended to sip it over the next hour, tilting the mug just enough for him to think I was drinking it. When he seemed satisfied, I went to the bathroom to wash my face. I poured the tea down the sink. That night was the first time in months I didn't wake up groggy. Didn't feel that heavy fog behind my eyes. Didn't feel like I'd slept inside a cloud. And that scared me more than anything, because it meant my body had been reacting to something. Something he was giving me. But I needed proof. I needed something concrete. Something undeniable. Because the idea that my husband, the man I shared a bed with, was drugging me, that felt impossible. Unreal. Insane. The mind is good at protecting itself. And mine was doing everything to convince me I was overreacting. Maybe he used a different honey. Maybe I was tired from work. Maybe nothing was wrong. But then came the night everything changed. I decided to test him. Just once. Just to see. So when he brought me my nightly cup of tea, I acted it out perfectly. Smiled. Thanked him. Kissed his cheek. Looked tired enough to pass out. Then I lifted the mug and let the tea brush my lips without swallowing a drop. He watched me with this soft, satisfied expression. "You're too stressed, sunshine," he murmured. "You need rest." I shrugged. "Maybe." He waited until I drank half, then kissed my forehead and turned off the lamp. I pretended to fall asleep. I slowed my breathing, kept still, and 30 minutes later, I heard him sit up. He stayed on the edge of the bed for a minute, listening. Then he stood and walked to the door, opening it just enough to slip into the hallway. When he thought I was asleep, he moved differently, quieter, more deliberate. Like he'd practiced sneaking around our own home. I eased out of bed, heart pounding so loud I was sure he'd hear it from downstairs. I crept behind him, stopping at the top of the stairs as he disappeared into his office. I held my breath. Then, I heard him whispering. Not on the phone. Not to himself. To someone in the room with him. I leaned forward, listening as hard as I could. "She's out," he whispered. "We can start." "Start what?" I froze. My heart thudded so violently I felt it in my ribs. I didn't dare move. Didn't even dare breathe too loud. Because whoever he was talking to, they were inside my house. At nearly midnight. While he believed I was unconscious. It was then, right there in the dark hallway, that I realized I wasn't imagining things. I wasn't paranoid. Something was happening inside my home that I didn't know about.
And it involved me.
I made it back to bed before he came upstairs again. I lay absolutely still as he opened the bedroom door and hovered over me, checking. He touched my cheek gently. Too gently. The way someone touches an object they don't want to wake. He whispered, "Good girl," before slipping back out of the room. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I stared at the ceiling until sunrise, forcing myself to breathe evenly, forcing myself not to panic, forcing myself not to confront him. Because confronting him without proof would be the most dangerous thing I could do. I didn't know who he'd been talking to. I didn't know what they planned to start. I didn't know why my tea made me foggy and confused for months. But I knew one thing. I had to find answers. Quietly. Carefully.
Fast.
The next morning, Andre acted normal, too normal. He hummed while frying eggs, kissed me on the forehead, joked about the weather. Every second he smiled at me, I felt a chill run through me. He was too calm. Too confident. Like he believed he had complete control over me. And maybe he did. Until last night. I left for work early under the excuse of needing to prep for a lecture. Really, I sat in my car in the college parking lot for 40 minutes, shaking so hard I had to grip the steering wheel to steady myself. Because I realized something terrifying. He hadn't just been drugging me. He had been coordinating something with another person, something involving my unconscious body. And if I didn't figure out exactly what it was, I might never escape. I'm going to tell you exactly what I did next. What I found. What I uncovered. But before I continue, listen carefully. Don't go anywhere. You need to hear the next part. Because this story only gets darker from here. And the truth of what Andre was doing? It wasn't just wrong. It was evil. I spent the entire day at work pretending everything was normal while my mind spiraled like a storm. I lectured about human behavior, about how people hide their true intentions, how deception leaves subtle patterns, and the irony wasn't lost on me. I stood in front of 25 students talking about psychological red flags while ignoring the biggest, one living in my own home. When my final class ended, I didn't go straight home. I couldn't, not without a plan. I sat in my car again, staring at my hands on the steering wheel. They were shaking like they belonged to someone else. I needed answers. Real answers. But I couldn't search the house while Andre was there. I couldn't confront him. And I couldn't tell anyone, not yet. If I went to the police without proof, it would sound like paranoia. A husband drugging his wife. A secret person inside the house. A whisper in the middle of the night about starting something. They'd ask for evidence. And all I had were suspicions and a couple of strange powder rings on a teacup. So I did the only thing that made sense. I drove to the pharmacy. I didn't want painkillers. Didn't want sleep aids. Didn't want anything that would raise suspicion. I grabbed a box of over-the-counter test strips, simple chemical indicators that detect common sedatives. I figured if anything was in my tea, it might react to them. I paid in cash. I kept the receipt and the box buried in my purse. As I walked out, I made myself breathe. My heart kept reminding me how real this was becoming, how dangerous it felt, how quickly everything was spiraling. But I couldn't escape the truth anymore. Andre wasn't who I thought he was. I timed my arrival home perfectly, 5 minutes after sunset, right around when he liked to start dinner. Sure enough, the kitchen lights were on. Music played softly, and the smell of garlic and butter filled the air. "Hey, sunshine," he said with that perfect smile. "Rough day." I managed a weak laugh. Long, not rough. I leaned in for a kiss, and he kissed me back warmly. Too warmly. The kind of warmth that masks motive. His hand slid behind my back like he was making sure I didn't tremble. "You hungry?" he asked. "Starving." He always cooked dinner. He always served me first. Tonight was no different. He placed a steaming bowl of pasta in front of me, sprinkled with herbs like he was a chef on TV. He lifted a glass of water too, then paused. "Want tea after?" he asked casually. "I bought you that peppermint you like." My stomach flipped. "I might," I said softly. He nodded with a grin. "Good. Helps you sleep. Helps you sleep." The words crawled under my skin like insects. I forced myself to eat dinner slowly, carefully. Every time he looked away, I watched him. His movements, his eyes, the way he kept checking if I drank from my water glass. I didn't. Instead, when he turned to grab something from the fridge, I slid the glass closer to me, pretending to sip. The second he turned back, I placed it at a slightly different angle to convince him I'd drunk some. He smiled, satisfied, and my stomach churned. After dinner, he made me tea, without asking again. I watched the entire process from the dining table. He filled the kettle, reached into the pantry, pulled out the peppermint bag. So far, nothing strange. But then he did something I wasn't expecting. He turned his back to me, and reached into the top drawer under the counter, where we kept napkins and tape and maybe old batteries. He leaned forward, his shoulders shifting. His hand stayed in the drawer too long. He wasn't searching, he was hiding something. When he turned back around, he poured the tea and brought it to me. "Careful, it's hot," he said. His eyes watched me closely. Too closely. I smiled, lifted the cup, and blew on it gently. He waited for me to drink. I held the cup against my lips just long enough for him to relax. "Make sure you finish it," he said lightly. "Your body needs rest." My body.
Not me.
My body. I placed the mug down and pretended to stretch.
Oh.
"I forgot something in the car," I said. "Be right back." He blinked. "At night? I'll get it." "No," I said quickly. A little too quickly. "It's personal. I got it." He stared a moment before nodding. "Be careful." I grabbed my purse and went outside, heart pounding as I closed the door behind me. The second I stepped off the porch, I emptied the tea onto the sidewalk. The steam floated through the cold air like a ghost. I dipped the test strip into the puddle. I waited. 5 seconds.
10.
Then slowly, painfully slowly, the strip turned pale blue. My stomach dropped. Blue meant sedative. There was a drug in my tea. A real, physical, laboratory-detectable substance. And he had been giving it to me nightly. I backed away from the puddle as if it were fire. Tears blurred my eyes. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I covered my mouth to keep from screaming. He'd been drugging me. Every night. For months. My heart thrashed violently inside my chest, and the world tilted for a moment. I grabbed the porch railing to steady myself.
Breathe. Think. Don't fall apart now.
Not yet. I wiped my eyes, stuffed the test strip deep inside my purse, and forced myself to go back inside. Andre was leaning casually against the counter, arms crossed, smiling like everything in the world was exactly how he wanted it. "Find what you needed?" he asked. "Yeah," I whispered. "Thanks." He touched my cheek gently. "You look tired. Drink your tea and rest. I'll clean up the kitchen." I swallowed hard. He was expecting me to go upstairs. To drink every drop. To fall unconscious. To be helpless. To be unaware. To be vulnerable. But now I knew. Now I saw the truth clearly. And if I wanted to survive this, I had to be careful. Very careful. I picked up the mug and walked toward the stairs as if everything were normal. As if my life wasn't crumbling beneath me. As if I wasn't holding a cup of poison. "Night, sunshine," he called after me. "Night," I said, keeping my voice steady. I didn't drink a single drop. Instead, I poured the tea down the bathroom drain. And as I watched it swirl away, something inside me snapped into place, like a lock finally clicking. Fear became focus. Confusion became clarity. Shaking became stillness. I looked at myself in the mirror, at my reflection staring back with wide, terrified eyes, and whispered, "You're getting out of this. You're not dying in this house." But before I left that bathroom, I heard something that nearly made my heart stop. Footsteps. Slow, heavy footsteps outside the door. Andre stood there, silently, waiting, listening, like he suspected something, like he was checking to see if I drank the tea, like he was counting how long I took. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I didn't even blink. After a long moment, his shadow shifted. His footsteps retreated down the hallway toward the guest room where he kept his equipment, whatever that meant. I let out a trembling breath. I needed answers, and the only place they existed was in that locked office downstairs. But I wasn't ready. Not yet. So instead, I forced myself into bed, pretending to sleep until the house fell silent. Around 2 a.m., I heard him go downstairs. He wasn't being quiet now. He wasn't sneaking. He thought I was drugged. He thought I was unconscious. He thought I was helpless. So he didn't hide his voice this time. He didn't whisper. He said it loudly, plainly, like speaking to someone who'd done this routine many times. "She's out. You can come in now." My skin turned to ice. Someone else was inside my house. At 2 a.m., while my husband believed I was unconscious upstairs. I didn't know who it was. I didn't know why they were there. I didn't know what they planned to start. But I knew one thing. Tomorrow, I was going to find out exactly what Andre was doing, no matter what I had to risk. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even close my eyes. I lay there listening. Every creak, every whisper, every footstep downstairs building a pattern in my mind. Someone else was in my house. Someone comfortable enough to enter quietly. Someone Andre trusted. Someone who didn't mind coming in the middle of the night, assuming I'd be unconscious. Hours later, when the sun finally touched the curtains, I realized I had to move. Every second I stayed in that bed pretending to be drugged put me closer to whatever they were planning. I grabbed my keys, my purse, and my phone. Then I tiptoed into the hallway. The house was silent, too silent. No cooking sounds. No humming. No Andre. The guest room door was closed, and a faint humming noise came from behind it. Machines? Electronics? A computer? I didn't know. But I knew I couldn't go near it. I crept downstairs and eased the front door open. When the cold morning air hit my face, I almost burst into tears. The world outside looked normal, peaceful, calm. People walking their dogs, kids waiting for the bus, neighbors waving at each other. If only they knew. If only anyone knew. I drove away with shaking hands, checking my rearview mirror every few seconds, half expecting Andre's car behind me. But the road stayed empty. I didn't go to work. I didn't go to a friend's house. I didn't want anyone involved, not until I knew what I was dealing with. I drove to a cheap 24-hour diner on the edge of town, ordered nothing but a cup of black coffee, and sat in a booth with my phone in my hand. I didn't dare turn it on.
He was in IT.
He could track it.
He could monitor it.
He could know exactly where I was. So instead, I watched my reflection in the dark screen of the phone and tried to think. Who was he talking to? Why drug me? Why every night? What were they doing when they believed I was unconscious? And then a thought hit me so hard my breath caught. What if they weren't doing something to me? What if they were doing something around me? In the same room as me, while I couldn't move or wake up. My stomach twisted violently, and I pushed the coffee away. I stayed at the diner for 2 hours, staring at the peeling wallpaper, trying to gather strength I didn't feel. Eventually, I knew what I had to do.
I had to search that office. I had to see what was inside.
But I couldn't walk back into that house without a plan. So I drove to Target and bought 3 things. A small, cheap mini Camera portable battery pack, digital recorder. Nothing fancy. Nothing that would connect to Wi-Fi or a cloud he could hack into. Just simple old-school tools. I paid in cash again. On the drive home, my heart hammered against my ribs like it was trying to break out of my chest. My hands were sweating so badly, I had to wipe them on my jeans at red lights. I pulled up to the house around noon. Andre's car wasn't in the driveway. That gave me a small window. A tiny breath of hope. I unlocked the front door and stepped inside. The house smelled like disinfectant. Not the mild lemon scent we usually used. Something stronger. Something chemical. I froze. Was he cleaning up? Covering tracks? Trying to erase something from the night before? I swallowed the fear and moved quietly through the living room, checking every corner. Everything looked normal. Too normal. Like a staged photograph of a house instead of an actual home. The door to his office was closed. My chest tightened. That door was almost always open. He liked airflow. He liked hearing me move around. But now it was shut, and the knob was turned slightly downward, like it had been pulled shut quickly. I approached it slowly. My hand trembled as I touched the knob. Unlocked. I opened it. And the moment I stepped inside, everything I thought I knew crumbled. At first glance, the office looked harmless. Just a desk, a computer, and some folders neatly stacked. But then I walked further in. There were 3 identical laptops on the floor, all connected with cables to a black device I'd never seen before. Not a router. Not a hard drive. Something else. Something industrial. The laptops were open, but the screens were dark. Beside them sat a notebook filled with lines of code, written by hand. Andre's handwriting. But that wasn't the worst part. In the corner of the room, behind a standing lamp, was a small metal case. A case with a fingerprint scanner. My breath froze. That's what he touched every day. That's what he went to after he thought I was unconscious. And now here it was, sitting in his office like it was nothing. I stepped closer. The scanner flashed red, locked. I stared at the case, at the faint smudges on its surface, at the deep scratches near the hinges, as if someone had pried at it once before. And then something in my chest told me to look behind the desk. I crouched. And then I saw it. A tiny black camera, installed behind the leg of the desk, pointed directly at the office door, recording anyone who entered, including me. I backed away quickly, trying not to breathe too loud. My heart felt like it was shaking my entire body. He was watching this room, monitoring it, protecting whatever he kept inside. I forced myself to move. I installed my own mini camera inside a hollowed-out book on a shelf he never touched, one of my old college textbooks about developmental psychology. He hated my academic books and never went near them. Then I pressed the record button on the digital recorder and slid it behind the curtain rod, high above the window. If he listened closely, he might hear clicking. But I prayed he wouldn't. When I finished, I heard a sound that nearly made me scream. A key turning. In the front door. He was home. I rushed to the hallway just as the knob turned fully. Andre stepped inside wearing that same calm smile, soft, loving, rehearsed. Like nothing in the world was wrong. "Hey, sunshine," he said. "You're home early. You feeling okay?" I forced a smile, praying he couldn't see the terror shaking through me.
"Yeah.
Just tired." He looked at me for a long moment. Too long. Then he nodded slowly. "You slept hard last night. Must have needed it." My stomach twisted. "Yeah," I whispered. He walked right past me, straight to the office door. And as he reached for the handle, he paused, turned back toward me, and smiled. My throat tightened so hard I couldn't breathe. "You didn't go in there, did you?" he asked gently. Every muscle in my body locked. I shook my head.
"No."
He kept smiling. But his eyes didn't smile back. He opened the office door, stepped inside, closed it behind him, and locked it.
Click.
The sound echoed through the hallway. I stood there, frozen, cold all over. Then, because curiosity felt stronger than fear, I leaned forward and listened. He wasn't typing. He wasn't talking. He wasn't moving around. He was breathing.
Hard. Deep.
Controlled. Like he was trying not to lose his composure. Like he knew someone had been in the room. Like he knew something was off. I stepped backwards slowly.
Quietly. Carefully.
Every instinct in my body screamed at me to get out of that hallway. I slipped into the bedroom and closed the door softly. My knees buckled. My breath came out in broken pieces. And all I could think was, he knows. He knows I'm starting to figure things out. He knows something changed. He knows I'm not under his control anymore. I sat on the edge of the bed, shaking. I couldn't stay here. I couldn't keep pretending. I couldn't wait another night. So I made the decision that would change everything. I was going to follow him. Not that night. Not recklessly. Not without knowing when and where he went. But I remembered something. Every Thursday night, Andre went out for team meetings. Late meetings, always after 11 p.m., always lasting 2 to 3 hours. And today was Thursday. If he went tonight, I would follow. No matter where he went. No matter what I found. No matter what he was hiding. And when I discovered the truth, I'd finally know what he was doing to me. I didn't touch dinner. I didn't touch tea. And he noticed. Not hungry, he asked. No, I whispered. You sure? His voice was warm, but his eyes were sharp as knives. You look exhausted. I'll sleep early. His lips curved. Good. The word hit me like a punch. He wanted me asleep.
Drugged.
Unaware. But I didn't go to bed. I pretended to sleep earlier than usual, lying still enough for him to believe I'd taken the bait. An hour passed.
2.
Around 10:45 p.m., I heard him moving around the house. Keys jingling.
Shoes on.
Whispering something under his breath. Then the front door opened.
Closed.
And I was alone. I sat up immediately. My heart felt like it was attached to a motor. I grabbed my coat, my keys, and my recorder. I slipped downstairs quietly, praying he wouldn't turn back for something he forgot. I stepped outside, locked the door, and rushed to my car. He was still in the driveway, adjusting something in the trunk. I ducked behind my car until he pulled out onto the street. I waited 10 seconds. Then I followed him. And what I saw that night, what he led me to, it shattered everything I thought I knew about him, about my marriage, about what was happening inside my house, and most terrifying of all, about what he wanted to do to me next. I followed Andre from a distance, keeping 2 cars between us whenever I could. My hands were slick on the steering wheel, breath shallow, heart pounding in my throat. Every streetlight felt too bright. Every brake light felt like a warning. Every turn he made tightened something inside my chest. He wasn't going toward the office. He wasn't going toward a restaurant. He wasn't going anywhere familiar. He drove toward the industrial district, an area filled with old warehouses, abandoned mills, storage units, and buildings with windows so dark you couldn't tell if anything lived inside. My headlights grazed a tall chain-link fence topped with barbed wire as we passed it. No signs. No labels. Nothing but the hum of distant machinery and the echo of lonely streets. Andre slowed down near a building with faded brick and boarded windows. I turned off into an alley just before he could see me. From the shadows, I watched him park beside a rusted metal door with a broken yellow light flickering overhead. He stepped out, looking around with a calmness that chilled me. He wasn't scared to be here. He wasn't cautious. He wasn't acting like someone sneaking into something illegal. No, he moved like he belonged there. Like he was expected. I watched him lift a hand to the door. He didn't knock. He typed something on a small keypad hidden behind a metal flap.
Beep. Beep.
Beep beep. The door clicked and swung open. A tall figure stepped out from inside, dark clothes, hood pulled low, face shadowed. They didn't greet each other with words or gestures. They simply nodded and stepped aside to let him enter. The door closed, and I was left in the silence of my car, fingers trembling so uncontrollably I had to grip the wheel to steady them. I stared at that metal door for what felt like minutes, but I knew it was seconds. My mind spun with questions, each more terrifying than the last. What kind of meeting required a warehouse at midnight? Who was the hooded person? Why did Andre come here after drugging me every night? But mostly, what was inside? I forced myself to move. I had to get closer. I left the car, keeping low as I crossed the street toward the building. The gravel crunched under my shoes, and each crack sounded like thunder in my ears. When I reached the wall, I pressed my back against the cold brick, breath held tight, listening. At first, I heard nothing. Then a faint hum: machines? Computers? Fans? Then voices. Muffled at first, then clearer as I crept toward a narrow window whose glass was long gone, replaced by a plywood sheet with cracks along the sides. I leaned close. "She's still taking it," a male voice said. Completely consistent. No irregularities. My blood froze.
They were talking about me.
Then another voice, Andre's. "She's been compliant. She trusts me. And she doesn't ask questions." Compliant. Like I was an experiment. I pressed a hand over my mouth to hold in a cry. "She hasn't shown any signs?" the first voice asked. "No," Andre said. "She sleeps deeply."
Hours.
No resistance. Resistance. The words stabbed into my heart. They weren't drugging me for fun. They were drugging me for a result. For a reaction, or lack of one. For something they wanted to happen when I was unconscious. My hands shook violently. Then I heard a third voice, a woman. "We need to escalate," she said. Her tone was cold, clinical. "The project timeline is moving up. She needs to be ready for Phase 2. Phase 2. My knees buckled, and I had to clamp a hand against the wall to keep from collapsing. "Andre," the woman continued, "are you confident she won't detect any changes?" He hesitated. Then he said it. The sentence that shattered me. "She's too naive. She believes everything I tell her. She'll never suspect me." The world tilted. I felt like I was falling through the ground. Never suspect. Naive. Compliant. He wasn't just betraying me. He was describing me like a subject. A volunteer.
A test.
I backed away from the window, tears streaming down my face. Nausea twisted my stomach as I struggled to breathe, each inhale broken and desperate. What was Phase 2? What had Phase 1 been? Was he trying to make me dependent? Forgetful? Suggestible? What had they done while I was unconscious? I tried to quiet my mind, but it surged forward with terrifying possibilities. Had they recorded me? Taken samples? Taken pictures? Put something in my body? Changed something in my house? Watched me sleep? A sob escaped my throat before I could stop it. I clapped a hand over my mouth and ran. I didn't look back. I didn't stop to breathe. I sprinted across the street with my vision blurring and my lungs burning. I forced my trembling fingers to unlock the car door, nearly dropping the keys twice, before I finally yanked it open and fell inside. My heart pounded so hard it hurt. I turned the ignition. The engine roared to life, and I pulled away as quietly as I could. When I reached the end of the block, adrenaline took over. I pressed the gas and didn't slow down until the warehouse was far behind me, swallowed by the night and the cold, empty streets. Only then did I pull over behind a film studio a few blocks away and cry until my throat burned raw. Everything I thought I knew about Andre, everything I believed about my marriage, everything safe and warm and familiar, was gone. I wiped my face with shaking hands. I couldn't go home. Not until I figured out what they were planning. Not until I had evidence. Because whatever this was, it wasn't just betrayal. It wasn't just manipulation. It was something organized. Clinically organized. Medically or technologically designed. A project. A timeline. A Phase 2. Someone had to know what was happening. Someone had to have answers. But I couldn't go to the police yet. Not without proof. Instead, I drove to the only place I could think of, my old friend, Kayla, a nurse who worked night shifts at the county hospital. She lived in a modest apartment 3 miles away. I arrived at her building around 1:40 a.m., heart still racing, lungs tight. I buzzed her door. "Who is it?" she said through the speaker, her voice groggy. It's Raina," I whispered, choking on tears. I need you." The door buzzed open instantly. I ran up the stairs, and Kayla swung her apartment door wide. Her hair was in a messy bun, pajamas wrinkled, eyes still sleepy, but when she saw my face, Everything sharpened. Reina? Oh my God. What happened? I stepped inside and collapsed into her arms. Kayla held me tight as I sobbed, her hand rubbing my back, her voice soft and calm in a way only she could manage. Okay.
Okay.
It's all right. You're safe, she whispered. Come sit down.
Breathe.
Tell me what's going on. I sat on her couch, shaky and cold. She wrapped a blanket around my shoulders and knelt in front of me. Start from the beginning, she said softly. I did. Everything.
The tea.
The powder.
The test.
The whispers. The locked office. The warehouse. Phase 2. And Andre's words. She'll never suspect me. Kayla's expression changed with every detail. Her face went from confused to horrified to furious. When I finished, she stood so suddenly the blanket slipped off my shoulders. Oh, hell no, she said. We're not doing this alone. We're going to find out exactly what he's giving you. I blinked.
How?
She walked to her kitchen drawer and pulled out a small case. A medical kit.
She set it beside me.
You're going to give me a urine sample and a little blood. I'll test them at the hospital. Quietly. Off record. My heart raced faster. You can do that? I can do anything for you, she said firmly. And whatever he's using, we're going to identify it. I burst into tears again. Not from fear this time, but relief. She squeezed my hand. But Reina, she said, her voice trembling now. Whatever we find, you need to prepare yourself. I swallowed hard. For what? For the possibility that he isn't just drugging you. She took a steadying breath. He might be altering your mind. Silence fell like a weight between us. And slowly, painfully, I realized she was right. I sat frozen on Kayla's couch, her words echoing through the room like thunder. He might be altering your mind. The sentence didn't just scare me. It settled somewhere deep, like a truth my body already knew but my mind had been too afraid to accept. Kayla handed me a small plastic container and a sterile kit. My hands trembled as I took them, but I nodded. I had to know. I had to face whatever this was. When I came back from the bathroom, Kayla was already pulling on latex gloves. We'll take the blood sample next, she said gently. I sat on the couch, arms stretched out, breath shaking as she tied the elastic band around my upper arm. You okay? She asked. I don't know, I whispered. She didn't push further. Instead, she cleaned my skin and slid the needle in smoothly. I looked away, tears running silently down my cheeks. When it was done, she capped the vial and labeled it with a Sharpie. RB/2:17 a.m. She put both samples into her medical bag. I'll test these as soon as I get to work, she said. You'll stay here until I come back. No going home, no checking your phone, nothing. Okay. She touched my shoulder. Reina, whatever's happening, we're going to deal with it. Together. Those words gave me more strength than I expected. For the first time in days, I felt like I wasn't drowning alone. Kayla dropped me off in her bedroom and urged me to rest, but sleep wouldn't come. I tossed and turned, replaying everything in my mind. Andre's voice. The whispers. The way he looked at me when he asked if I'd been in his office. The phrase Phase 2 kept looping in my head. What did that even mean? What was the project? Was it psychological? Medical? Technological? And then another question hit me. Why me? What made me the perfect subject? I lay awake until dawn tinged the curtains pale gold. Around 7 a.m., I heard the door open softly. Kayla stepped inside, still wearing her scrubs, face drawn and pale. My stomach dropped. What did you find? I whispered. Kayla sat on the edge of the bed. She didn't speak right away. She took my hand first. Reina, there's something in your system, she said. But it's not any sedative I've ever seen. Not a drug we use in hospitals, not a controlled medication, not even a sleep aid. My heart started racing. What do you mean? I mean it doesn't match any chemical compound in our database. What? She swallowed. It mimics the effects of benzodiazepines, slowing down brain activity, causing memory fog, making you suggestible, but it's synthetic. And advanced. Someone engineered this. I felt the room tilt. Engineered. This wasn't over the counter. It wasn't recreational. It wasn't accidental. It was created. Kayla squeezed my hand harder. Reina, this isn't someone playing games.
This is a program.
A project. Something with funding. Resources. They tested it on you for a reason. My breath caught. Kayla, what if they tested more than memory? What if? I know, she whispered. I thought that too. A cold shiver crawled down my spine. What else did you find? She hesitated. There were traces of something else too. Something electrical in nature. Electrical?
Yes. Almost like she paused.
Almost like your nervous system is carrying residue from low-frequency stimulation. My mind reeled. Electrical stimulation while I was unconscious? Kayla nodded slowly. They were monitoring how your brain reacted, how your body responded. This is conditioning, Reina. This is the kind of thing used in advanced neurological experiments. Everything inside me went numb. So, I was right, I whispered. They were doing something to me while I was sleeping. Kayla looked devastated as she nodded. Yes. I felt the tears spilling again. What do they want from me? Why me? Kayla took a deep breath. Because you're psychologically stable, healthy, smart, predictable. You've never been medicated, never had mental illness, no neurological issues, no addiction history. You're the perfect baseline. Baseline. Test subject. Experiment. It was too much. I stood up abruptly, gripping my head with both hands. Oh my God, oh my God. Kayla stood up too. Reina, breathe. I married a man who's been experimenting on me. I cried. In my own house. In my own bed. Reina. And I trusted him. I loved him. I never thought. My voice cracked. What if he's been planning this since we met? Kayla froze. Neither of us had considered that until now. What if none of it was real? I whispered. What if the whole relationship was part of the project? Kayla's face tightened. It's possible, she said gently. If they needed someone with your psychological profile, they might have targeted you. My knees buckled, and she caught me before I collapsed. I'm so sorry, she whispered, hugging me tightly. After a long moment, I pulled away. What do we do now? I asked, voice shaking. We gather evidence, she said. The sample results are one part. You said you planted cameras in the house. Yes.
Good.
We need footage. Anything that shows him tampering with your tea or bringing someone into the house. I swallowed hard. Kayla, I also need to check his office. She nodded slowly. But not while you're alone, she said. We do it together. Her confidence steadied me. Okay, I whispered. Okay. We agreed to go back to my house later that afternoon, when most neighbors were at work, when Andre wouldn't be home. Kayla insisted we bring gloves, masks, and something to cover our shoes. This isn't just sneaking into your husband's office, she said. This is a crime scene. We treat it professionally. We left her apartment around 1 p.m. My body felt heavy with dread. Every instinct screamed at me to run far away and never look back. But I couldn't. Not without the truth. Not without evidence. Not without understanding what Andre wanted to turn me into. When we pulled into my driveway, the house looked normal. Too normal. Like it was posing, pretending nothing terrible had ever happened inside. Kayla touched my arm before we stepped out. Stay behind me, she whispered. We entered quietly, scanning the living room and kitchen. Everything was untouched. No notes. No furniture moved. Nothing to indicate he'd come home after I left last night. But the air felt wrong. Too still. Too staged. We went straight to his office. The door was locked. Kayla knelt and inspected the knob. No signs of tampering, she murmured. He probably left it locked after last night. I pulled out Andre's pack of spare keys from the kitchen drawer. He always kept them there. My fingers fumbled through each one until I found the small silver key that matched the office lock. I slid it in.
Turned it. Click.
The door swung open. I stepped inside and gasped. The 3 laptops were gone. The black device was gone. The metal case with the fingerprint scanner was gone. The notebook was gone. Everything was gone. The room was bare. Kayla's eyes widened. He cleared it out. Overnight. I whispered, horrified. Not overnight, she said. After you left. I felt sick. He knew, I whispered. He knew I followed him. He knew someone else was in here. Kayla walked to the center of the room, scanning the floor. No dust, she said. No debris. No cables left behind. No fingerprints. Raina, he sanitized this place. Her voice shook. This was deliberate. Methodical. He wiped away every trace. Terror crawled up my spine. I stepped back, straight into something. I turned. A note. Pinned to the wall. My heart stopped. Kayla stepped closer with me. The note was handwritten. In Andre's handwriting. Sunshine. We need to talk. You shouldn't have gone there. But it's not too late. Come home tonight. My stomach twisted violently. Kayla's face went white. Oh my God, she whispered. He knows everything. I shook my head, backing away. No, he can't. Kayla grabbed my arms. Raina, we need to leave. Now. No, Kayla, he was here. He was in this room. He's watching. Raina, she said sharply. Listen to me. This isn't safe anymore. My breath came fast and shallow. He wants me to come home tonight. Kayla's grip tightened. Then you're not going home. Ever again. A new fear hit me. Kayla, what if he's watching the house right now? Her expression hardened. Then he's going to find out the hard way that you're not alone. We backed out of the office and into the hallway. Come on, she whispered. Grab anything important. We're leaving before he... A loud click echoed through the house. We froze. Kayla grabbed my wrist, pulling me toward the door. But then we heard it. Footsteps. Slow. Heavy. Deliberate. Coming from the kitchen. I turned toward Kayla, eyes wide with horror. No, he's here. Kayla squeezed my hand and whispered, Run. Kayla yanked me toward the hallway as the footsteps grew louder, slow, steady, deliberate. My heart slammed so hard against my ribs, I thought it might break through. The air in the house felt wrong, thick, electric, charged with something dangerous. We turned the corner and froze. Andre stood in the middle of the kitchen. Still. Calm. Hands at his sides. Eyes locked on mine. Not angry. Not confused. Not tense. Just studying me. Like I was a puzzle he'd already solved. Sunshine, he said softly. You weren't supposed to be here. Kayla stepped in front of me immediately, her voice low and sharp. You stay back, she warned. Don't take one more step. Andre tilted his head slightly, almost amused. Kayla, right? The nurse. I wondered when you'd get involved. My stomach twisted. He knew about her. He knew where I went. He'd been tracking me. Andre raised his hand slowly, not in surrender, but in a gesture that was almost gentle. I know you're scared, he said to me, but you don't understand what's actually happening. Kayla's jaw clenched. We understand enough. He ignored her, eyes only on me. I would never hurt you, Raina, he said softly. Everything I've done, everything you think I've done, it's been for your benefit. I felt bile rise in my throat. My benefit? I whispered. You drugged me. You experimented on me. You let strangers into our house. His expression didn't change. I kept you safe. Kayla laughed, short, shocked, bitter. Safe? Drugging her every night is safe. Andre's eyes flicked to her, and they darkened just enough to send a chill through me. She wasn't ready to know, he said quietly. And you're making this harder. Then he looked at me again, soft, loving, the same way he always did before I understood who he really was. Raina, you were chosen. My skin crawled. Chosen for what? I whispered. Phase 2, he said simply. Kayla shifted her stance, ready to run or fight. No, she said. No more phases. We're leaving. Andre took one slow step forward, and Kayla raised a kitchen knife she'd grabbed from the counter without me noticing. I said stay back, she repeated. Andre stopped, but the calm didn't leave his face. You think you're protecting her, he said softly, but you're making a mistake neither of you can undo. Reina, get behind me, Kayla said. I didn't move. I couldn't. Andre took another half step. And then, the front door burst open. 3 figures rushed inside, 2 men and 1 woman, dressed head to toe in dark tactical gear. Kayla gasped, grabbing my wrist. Andre didn't move. Reina Brooks, the woman in the front, barked, her voice sharp, professional. Kayla stepped forward. Who are you? Federal Task Unit, she said, flashing a badge. Ma'am, step away from him. I blinked, confused, terrified, unable to process what was happening. Federal? They knew my name? They knew him? One of the men pointed at Andre. Mr. Hale, he said, you were instructed not to leave your authorized site. You violated protocol. Andre's expression flickered for the first time, just a split second of frustration. Kayla turned toward me, whispering urgently, Reina, they know him. They know exactly who he is. The female agent stepped forward. Ma'am, she said to me, you need to come with us immediately. You're not safe here. My mouth went dry. Not safe. I glanced at Andre. He didn't resist. He didn't run. He didn't fight. He simply looked at me, calm, steady, almost sad. You weren't supposed to find out like this, he said. One of the agents pulled his hands behind his back and cuffed him. Andre didn't protest. Kayla pulled me toward the door. Come on, she urged. Let's go. But I couldn't move. Something inside me needed an answer. Why me? I whispered. Andre held my gaze. Because you're strong, Reina, he said. Stronger than you think. Because your mind is extraordinary. And because you were perfect for what we needed. Tears blurred my vision. What did you do to me? I choked. He tilted his head, almost tenderly. I prepared you. A shiver raced through my whole body. The agents pulled him toward the door, but he kept his eyes on me until the last possible moment. You're going to understand one day, he said softly. Everything I did was to protect you. Kayla dragged me outside as the agents escorted Andre into a black transport vehicle. The doors slammed shut. Engines revved. Then they were gone.
Just like that.
The street fell silent. I collapsed onto the sidewalk, shaking, sobbing, my whole body collapsing under months of fear and confusion. Kayla knelt beside me, holding me close. It's over, she whispered. You're safe now. But I knew she was wrong, because the truth had only just begun. The next hours blurred into a long chain of questions, statements, and paperwork. The federal unit took Kayla and me to a secure office downtown, bright lights, sterile walls, and serious faces. The agents explained what they could. Andre was part of a private research sector contracted by the government. Yes, they'd been monitoring him. Yes, they knew he'd gone off protocol. Yes, they knew I wasn't supposed to be involved. No, they wouldn't tell me everything. Your involvement was unintentional, one agent said carefully. We're debriefing the other parties. You'll receive updates when allowed.
Allowed.
I hated that word. I hated that they all knew pieces of my life I didn't. I hated that Andre was part of something bigger, something organized, something controlled. And I hated that I still didn't know the full truth. But they escorted me out before I could ask anything else. Kayla stayed with me through every second. She drove me back to her apartment, fed me soup, put blankets over my shaking body, and made me sleep on her couch. For the first time in months, I slept without fog, without fear, without tea, without someone hovering over my dreams. The next morning, sunlight warmed my face. And for the first time, I believed I might survive this. Over the next few weeks, life became a process of slow healing. Therapy sessions, debrief calls with federal agents who told me only what they legally could. Nights when I'd wake up shaking, Kayla holding my hand until I calmed. I learned that Andre wasn't coming back. I learned that whatever project he'd been part of was shut down. I learned that I wasn't the only one who'd been unknowingly involved. But I also learned something else. Something harder. Healing isn't instant. Trust doesn't come back quickly. And silence, real silence, the kind where no one is watching you, feels strange at first. Unnatural. Too light. But eventually, It becomes peaceful. Eventually, you breathe again. Eventually, you reclaim your life. Now here I am, sitting in front of this camera, in my 30s, a Black woman who survived something she never imagined could happen to her. A woman who is calm, trusting, and stable until she realized the person she loved most was using all of that against her. I'm telling you this because someone out there needs to hear it. Someone out there needs to know that danger doesn't always look dangerous at first. Sometimes it looks like a smile you've known for years. Sometimes it sounds like, "I love you." Sometimes it smells like peppermint tea at bedtime. And sometimes, the person you trust the most is the one you should have feared the most. If you listened all the way to the end, thank you. Truly.
It means more than I can say.
And if my story kept you watching, if it made you feel something, if it reminded you to trust your instincts, if it helped you escape reality for a little while, I hope you'll stay with me for the next one. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel. It helps me keep sharing stories like this, stories of survival, mystery, courage, and the kind of truths people don't talk about enough. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your support. And thank you for listening to my voice. Take care of yourself. Trust your instincts. And I'll see you in the next story.